So today is November 7th, 2024. This is the meeting of the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee. I am detecting quorum with myself, Vice Chair Cash, Council Members Druffel, Rutherford, and Sepulveda present. Pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 844-112, time is set aside at the beginning of each meeting for public comments. There is nobody signed up for public comment. So we will go ahead and move into our agenda. First up are resolutions. I do have a consent agenda. So currently, well, I'm not seeing the sponsors, a couple that I wasn't going to put on consent. So currently, items number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are on consent. Is there anything that anybody wishes to pull from consent? Seeing none, I will go ahead and read these items into the record. So, item number 1, RS 2024-809, sponsor Prep Teat, is a resolution approving the election of certain notaries public for Davidson County. Item number 2, RS 2024-854, sponsors Lee, Rutherford, and Benton, a resolution honoring the life of Alyssa Locketts. RS 2024-855, sponsors Rutherford and Hill, a resolution to honor and recognize the service and sacrifice of veterans on Veterans Day. RS 2024-856, a resolution, sponsor Hill, a resolution honoring the Vanderbilt University football team historic victory over number 1 ranked Alabama. Go Commodores. Item number 5, RS 2024-857, sponsors SWARA, a resolution recognizing the 25th anniversary of the creation of the Mayor's Youth Council. Item number 6, RS 2024-858, a resolution recognizing the Downtown Presbyterian Church's 100th Waffle Shop event. RS 2024-859, sponsor Tombs, a resolution expressing support for women's soccer, for a National Women's Soccer League club to be awarded to Nashville. Yes. RS 2024-860, sponsor Porterfield, a resolution recognizing the 10th anniversary of the Metropolitan Office of Conservatorship Management and the office's work to support those under a conservatorship or guardianship in Davidson County. RS 2024-861, a resolution recognizing November 20th, 2024 as Transgender Day of Remembrance in honor of those who have lost their lives to anti-transgender violence. Is there anything that anybody wishes to remove from consent? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any not voting? Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Next, we move into bills on second reading. So BL 2024-582, sponsor Sepulveda, an ordinance modifying the structure of various boards and commissions to enhance operations and comply with provisions of the Metropolitan Charter. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Councilmember or Vice or Pro Tem Sepulveda, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, this legislation stems from the work that we have been doing on the working group that is looking at boards and commissions and reworking them. So essentially what the legislation does is makes all of the council members serving on boards and commissions not created by the charter and the state non-voting members to comply with state law. It also cleans up some of the boards and commissions that are inactive, and it reworks the attendance requirement. So in the course of a year, a commissioner that misses 2/3 of required meetings, the chair, vice chair, or executive director will notify the Metro clerk. The Metro clerk will then notify the rules chair, and the rules chair will then file legislation to remove that commissioner at which point this committee will decide if the commissioner should be removed or not. We have not had a attendance requirement at all, which has been an issue for a very long time, which has we've had a quorum issue on several of our boards and commissions, and we have been unable to get a hold of several of them. They have been able to pass any meaningful work, and our group took some of the feedback that we received from several council members, several boards, and we came up with this legislation. So with that, if you all have any questions, I'd be happy to take that, and if not, we could, I would ask for your support.
Share Cash.
Thanks for all your work on this. This is great, and I think will help. I'm just curious about if this committee is to vote on removing someone, or the council is going to vote on removing someone, like, will this committee have an is there any information that we're expected to get either from like the chair of the commission or a staff member, or is the person that's being potentially removed have an opportunity to be before us? I guess what information are we going to have other than the attendance?
Yeah, I don't know, I could let Dave answer that, or Hannah.
You're right.
Thank you. Thanks, Councilmember. The process will really be up to council. It'll continue to have the same threshold of 30 votes for removal that's dictated now. And whatever process you decide, if you'd like to ask for additional information, if you'd like to ask for the board member or commissioner to come and describe to the extent they'd like to, if there were extenuating circumstances, that's completely up to you.
Okay, thanks.
We have never really removed several commissioners in the past, right? We've never had a criteria before. I think this is a good start.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It gives us something to work off of.
Councilmember Weiner.
So having served on boards and commissions in the past, I love this. I think it's great, it's needed. The quorum issue is real, and so thank you. It's about time. Having said that, where this is being considered because of extenuating circumstances, because of the hard and fast rules that we're setting in place, I want to make sure that this committee has consistent criteria under which each and every time that we have this come before us, we can apply equity across every single consideration that we give. And I don't know if that means amending this to stipulate, or if we need to come back and create rules for this particular committee, adjusting our rules to reflect that. And I would feel comfortable, frankly, if we were to even put a friendly amendment on this that says, as a follow-up to the passage of this ordinance, the Rules Committee will create specific criteria under which we follow each and every time. And that gives the public and the existing commissioners the consideration that we're not going on a witch hunt. We just want the job done. So.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council Member. I'm trying to figure out if it would be adding it to this legislation or to the rules of the committee itself, because I know that the Rules Committee, each committee is allowed to create its own rules. So would it make sense to have it within the Rules Committee, or would it make sense to have it within this legislation?
Well, I think we need to have it in the confines of this committee. I would assume that there would be council members that are hesitant to pass something without that assurance. How else do we get that assurance if we don't put something in the ordinance to state that upon passage of this, it will then be kicked to this committee to create the criteria that will be adhered to?
And I'll,
Yeah, does that make sense?
yeah, if, and following up on that, my question would be, could we accomplish that through a resolution?
The criteria itself?
Or simply stating that, one, I think the criteria will come through the rules that this committee votes on and creates for this body, but I guess my underlying question to Councilmember Wiener's point in stating like that, yeah, having something that the entirety of the body passes, showing that there will be a uniformity of the standard, could we accomplish what Councilmember Wiener is stating that we would need to do by passing an ordinance that is sort of married to this without having to defer this on second?
You could do that. You could pass a separate ordinance. I think it would need to be an ordinance in order to be binding. A resolution would be non-binding. I think you could also potentially put it in rules. However, the rules are more how you self-govern more than how you govern others. So I don't know that you necessarily would want to put a requirement for somebody to send you information in the rules.
Can we just amend it on third?
It's not amendable on third, but you could suspend the rules to offer an amendment.
Yeah, thanks for recognition. I totally agree in terms of we need consistency, but is there a position for some kind of exception? Let's say someone had surgery and is out for half a year. Is there that position, and how do we handle people that are in, Council Lady, have you included some provision in there?
It would be this committee, right?
Okay.
So they come to this committee then decides, right?
Okay. So there's a provision for an exception. We need to be consistent, but there's a provision for some unusual thing.
It is you all,
Okay, okay.
right? So the uniformity within the ordinance is 2/3 of required board and commission meetings.
Right.
And then it is the rules committee that decides if there were circumstances
Okay,
that.
that's what I was getting to. Thank you.
Yeah, quick question. I like everything that I'm hearing because I know there's been issues related to attendance, and I've seen that myself. But my question, it relates to the bodies that are state mandated versus those that are not, and where does this fall and how does that impact? I want to make sure I have a full understanding of that.
Yeah. So if it's state created, I'd have to look, but I believe that unless there were other removal criteria, that it would operate as kind of a regular board or commission. I don't know that there's separate removal criteria under state statutes, but a state statute might have, they can only be removed for a certain cause or something, and they would not be subject to this. This is, I think, mostly going to be metro-created boards or commissions.
There is, at the top of this legislation, it does say that this applies to boards and commissions that are created by action of the Metropolitan Council, whether by a resolution or ordinance. So it doesn't apply to state boards or charter-created boards. Only, since we're putting this in the code, it's safest for its authority to only encompass things that are in the code.
So then, is there a policy, I guess, from the state then that would govern those? If so, are we aware of that?
Each state authority, generally the ones that come from the state, have, and they are all just depending on how the state statute was drafted as far as the process for both appointing and ending members' terms.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Anything further? Okay, so the question on the floor is the approval of BL 20. Did I read this into the record already? I did. Okay. Yeah. So the question on the floor is the approval of BL 2024-582. Seeing no further discussion, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? So we have 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting, and recommend approval. So now we have moving to late filed amendments on BL 2024-598, sponsor Coupon. This is an ordinance approving Amendment 7 to the Phillips Jackson Street redevelopment plan pertaining to certain general business land use. And we do have the late filed amendment before us. I will go ahead and recognize Councilmember Coupon. Could you tell us about the nature of the late file?
Yes, and as a councilman for this district, I apologize for the sirens. We will work on that. No, one of my favorite pastimes is bringing late filed amendments, so former chair Pro Tem Sepulveda can be mad at me. No, this is actually more of a clerical late file. We have a Phillips Jackson redevelopment district that has certain requirements and restrictions to it. One of the things is that it does not allow hotel usage, and there's a project getting ready to start on 3rd and Jefferson that's going to be a hotel, among other things. The neighborhood's incredibly supportive of the project. We were very excited to bring this legislation, and we learned today that there is a small parcel that is owned by just someone unrelated to this project that was included in it. Originally, we were going to run the bill. Once we run it today, it's going to trigger the public hearing with public notice. We told her, hey, we're going to run it. We're going to run it with this notice. You're in it. Don't worry. We're going to carve you back out. She was very upset by that. She said, no, I don't want anything to do with this. Please take me out. So out of respect to her and out of respect to the property owner, we moved from having this come on second reading to late filing it today. And I don't know, Hannah, if you want to address a little bit.
I will
about-
say the benefit of running this late amendment to remove the parcel is that it can be noticed correctly for the public hearing.
And so, if I'm hearing correctly, was that we learned of this issue, well, when did we learn of the issue with this?
It was pretty recent. We learned about it, and then, past any sort of filing deadline, we learned about it, and then reached out to the property owner, hoping that she would say, yeah, no big deal, you can take me out in the next round. Second reading, and she was very upset by that, and then also the notice that would go out would be incorrect, and out of respect for her, that's the hope. I don't know, Hannah, if you want to add anything there.
No, I think that pretty much captures it, yeah.
Hearing the nature of the late file, do we have any discussion? Alright, seeing none, we will first go to the motion to suspend the rules to allow for it to be considered. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, okay, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? So we've got 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And then we'll go ahead and move to the subsequent vote. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you. Alright, now we move into boards and commission elections. Candidates in this category will be subject to a recommendation vote by the Rules Confirmation and Public Elections Committee and an election by the council. So I believe so the first person on this list is an individual who will be speaking to this evening due to the suspension of the rules last week. So this is for item number 12, the East Bank Development Authority. Consideration of nominees for 2 vacancies on the authority with an election to be held on November 7th, 2024. 1 vacancy on the authority is for a term expiring on June 30th, 2026, and 1 vacancy is for a term expiring on June 30th, 2027. The first person up that we have is Ms. Michaela Houghton. Ms. Houghton, thank you for being here today, and our condolences to you. Would you like a parking pass or or parking validation or a bus pass?
I got a parking validation.
Okay, perfect. So first question that we have for you is tell us a little bit about why you want to serve on the East Bank Development Authority.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing my nomination today. And I think that the perspective that I have to offer on the East Bank Development Authority is critical as we move forward. About 3 miles of riverfront are contained on this parcel of land. About 80% is either in the 100 or 500 year floodplain. I think that the key to making this new neighborhood that's livable is open space, climate resilient landscapes, and water quality. And I think that Nashville really needs this voice on the development authority. And I would be proud to have the council's nomination, because I think that you all, the seats that you all fill will speak for all of Nashville. Nashville's access to the water, Nashville's right to clean water, open space, and parks.
Two more follow-ups. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
I am.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being considered for today?
No.
Okay. I'm curious if you could speak to some of your experience with the Cumberland River Compact, and so how that would inform your service on this board.
Sure. The Cumberland River Compact is an environmental nonprofit that works to improve water quality and the health and enjoyment of the Cumberland River. I've been with the compact since 2005 and executive director since 2014. We moved to the bridge building in 2013, just as the East Bank and Cumberland Park were opening. So we've been integral in the activation of the Cumberland River and its slow conversion from industrial to sort of mixed use, industrial, recreational. I know the challenges of the East Bank, coordinating with the Corps of Engineers, and I know the need for park space on the East Bank. Cumberland Park has been closed since 2020. It's a critical park to East Nashville, and particularly the families that live in Casey. Prior to its closing on a weekend day, you would get over 1,000 kids playing in that park. So I think the fact that that park has remained closed for 4 years speaks to it being a low priority, and it's very important to me that someone on this board advocates for Nashville families, for park space, for the families that are going to live there. At the Cumberland River Compact, because the Cumberland River flows through the entire state, I frequently work at the state level, so I've served on state steering committees and have navigated that role of being an environmental advocate, working with a state administration to find compromises, to find wins, to find common ground. And then lastly, I'd like to speak about Cumberland River Compact's role as operational partner for Route Nashville. Route Nashville started in 2018 as the city's campaign to restore the urban canopy. We run Route Nashville's private property planting out of our office. Hopefully you've seen our trucks around town watering trees, planting trees. This year we'll be planting over 10,000 1-inch trees to help improve air quality, water quality, reduce urban heat island impact. A key component of that in 2018, it started with Mayor Barry, continued with Mayor Briley, incorporated Bloomberg Consultants, was to look at historically under-canopied neighborhoods, historically underserved neighborhoods, and to make sure that we were addressing those inequities. And we developed an innovative program of grassroots organizing to help neighborhood tree captains, neighbors reaching out to neighbors to help reforest those neighborhoods. So we're reaching our, we're celebrating our 50,000th tree this year, and you know, I hope that demonstrates to you all kind of my commitment to environmental justice, the right for everybody in Nashville to have access to clean water, and a healthy built environment.
Councilmember Coopin, do you want to speak to your nominee?
Yeah, I'd love to do it. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mikhail, for being here, and thank you for all accommodating the schedule shift. I think that as I was thinking through who I wanted to bring forward, obviously this area is a citywide project, but also, you know, living in my district, and I wanted to bring someone forward. I thought about the constituents of the area, and I thought about who's really engaging in this space, and obviously it is the East Bank because it is the East Bank of the river, and I think that the river access and river quality and sustainability are such an important part of this development. I think there's a lot of business interest, there's a lot of resident interest, and to make sure that that voice is preserved was really important to me. I also look at the makeup of the authority. You've got state and city, and I think Mikhail demonstrates that she can work in that space. It's obviously there's a lot of personalities and opinions in a space like that, and so to have someone that has worked on the governor's task force or steering committee, and then also worked in a local level on a mayor's task force and steering committee, to have that diversity of experience, I think is really really helpful. And you've heard the achievements of Route Nashville and Cumberland River Compact. I think they do a lot of really good work, really impactful work. They really serve our city and represent the voices of everyday Nashvillians. Again, not just in District 19, but throughout the whole of Davidson County. And so I hope my colleagues will support her tonight.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favors?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much. So next we'll move into the next portion. So we'll do these as one conglomerated vote. I'll read them into the record because we have already interviewed the following people who were nominated. So we have Carrie Gardner, who was nominated by Councilmember Cortez, Nathaniel Carter, who was nominated by Chair Toombs, Scott Swift, who was nominated by Councilmember Parker, and Bob Braswell, who was nominated by Councilmember Webb. Any discussion on any of these individuals? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. So next we move into board and commission appointees and nominees. Candidates in this category will appear before the Rules Confirmation and Public Elections Committee to determine their relative qualifications of the candidate. First, we have the Community Corrections Advisory Board appointment of Joshua Brand for a term expiring on October 22nd, 2026. Mr. Brand?
Yes.
Welcome. Would you like a parking validation or a bus pass?
No, thank you.
Perfect. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes, I am.
And do you currently serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to today?
I do not.
So tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
Sure. I believe really strongly in, I guess, alternatives to incarceration. And, you know, from the way I see it, that's a lot of what community corrections does. It occupies a really important space in finding opportunities other than prison, other than jail, for a lot of people who, I won't say always, but sometimes that's kind of a last resort. It's a really strict, stringent form of alternative supervision. Sometimes there's programming that's associated with it, but sometimes it's just another way for people who maybe aren't good candidates for probation, whether it's their history, personal things, treatment that they need. It's something else that they can do instead of go to jail. A lot of times it's a last resort. But to me, and I've been a criminal justice practitioner, mostly on the defense, all on the defense side, for 15 years now, it's extremely important to do everything we can to avoid putting people in prison. There are cases, I'm not an abolitionist, but there are cases that maybe prison's the option. But for nonviolent offenders, for people who have substance, who have mental health issues, I think these are important to explore those opportunities, and community corrections does that. And so I believe in that, and I'm very interested in having the opportunity to help this board, see what else this board can do, to be involved in the conversation. There's a lot of stakeholders throughout the system that could benefit this. There's a lot of the community that can benefit this. I think there's a direct correlation between alternatives to incarceration and reduction in recidivism, and there's a lot that can be done through those conversations, and hopefully this board, and I'd like to think, being able to help this board is something that can help in that process.
And so just to explain for folks who may or may not be familiar, pardon me if I'm mansplaining, but so the way that sentencing works is generally there's a tier to things. First you have unsupervised probation, which is the most bottom level. You've got a sentence, it's kind of hanging over your head, but as long as you stay out of trouble, no issue. Then you have supervised probation, which again, is what you would think. You've got a probation officer, you've got to check in, there are certain requirements. With community corrections, it is significantly more intensive than both of those levels. It's essentially a form of supervised probation, but you just have more things that you are accountable for to the court and to the judge. And within community corrections, there are a number of programs. One of the greatest ones, which is run by Judge Jennifer Smith in Division 4, which is the DC4 Drug Court 4, which is housed here in Davidson County, and provides an opportunity for offenders who have a felony conviction to be getting sentencing credit while participating in this drug program. Like Mr. Brand said, is a tool that we can utilize to ensure that there is access to resources and a reduction of recidivism and other factors that contribute to recidivism. Just a quick for those who aren't necessarily familiar with the program. Do we have any questions or anything from the committee? Pro Tem Sepulveda.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Mr. Brand, for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
This is a topic that's very important to me, having family members who were formerly incarcerated. So I do appreciate when people take an interest and want to make sure that people are, brought into society and not pushed aside and forgotten. And so your willingness to help, I guess my main question is, what do you think is missing from this this board that we have not taken a look at, or that we need to be doing better?
Candidly, I didn't know this board existed up until maybe a month ago when I was contacted and sort of inquired about this board. So I am not totally clear on what the relationship between the board and community corrections is. I've known about community corrections for a long time. I've dealt with community corrections before. One thing that I think community corrections could always do more of, and they do a lot of this, but I'd be interested to see how the board can help facilitate some of this, is investment and facilitation of programming. So, helping with housing, helping with mental health treatment, helping with drug treatment. What are things that people that are on community corrections, identifying needs that people have when they're transitioning out of, sometimes they're in pretrial custody for a year or 2 years. So, and just, I'm using lingo, I know, but people they're arrested, they have a case, they're fighting their case all the way, and maybe they get a plea or they go to trial and they're ordered to go on community corrections, which is really intensive supervision. But sometimes they're just dumped out on the street and said, go report to your community corrections officer 4 days a week or get a job. So what else can something for community corrections do to help them get resources so that they can succeed, so that they don't fall back into, well, shoot, I'm out of money, maybe if I just, sell some dope, that'll help me get through. So are there things that they can do to help connect people with resources that they need? And they are, it's a community corrections deal with a lot. They deal with a lot of people. Caseloads are huge. But, that'd be something I'd be interested in looking at, is there something in terms of resources that could possibly help facilitate some of that?
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. So I'm the chair of the Public Health and Safety Committee, and so I also just started learning about community corrections and reached out to the program manager and want to set up some time with her to get a little bit more understanding. And it kind of came to my attention only because of a high-profile case where it referenced that the person had, been assigned to come through the program. And so what you're talking about, to me, as far as making stronger connections to resources and things like that, there's also Metro has a group violence interruption program where it's kind of some similar things where folks that are have the potential to either they've been involved in community violence, or they are kind of surrounded by folks who are kind of shepherding them that direction, where they're, between police and nonprofits and a variety of organizations working to connect them to more resources, and so it sounds, I'll have to learn a lot more and have that time, but it's one of those things, like, I think it'd be a good topic for our committee to have someone, the program manager to come and speak potentially, but I wanted to talk to her first just to learn more specifically, because I think it feels like an under the radar like thing that we wouldn't normally hear about unless you're like me and you hear about it on the news, and then wonder what is this and kind of go down the rabbit hole of like trying to read online and that kind of thing. So it sounds like you've got some good ideas.
Yeah, and I imagine that there's a lot of other resources out there that just aren't maybe getting access to or being connected with, that maybe is an opportunity for a board to maybe start reaching out and making some of those connections, which is another advantage.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Weiner.
Having had a family member that has been knee-deep in community corrections since he was 14, this has been a revolving door. My question for this committee would be data-driven decision-making. So are they looking at recidivism rates? Are they looking at those that come in and then come back over and over and over again, who eventually end up 12 years in prison? And that's not what we want. It's not what we want for them, and it's not what we want for the family. But we also don't want it for the victims that are having to deal with the folks that continue to be bad actors. So I would like to see Chair Evans, if we can have a conversation with this committee and learn what their decision-making is based on and how they're able to support community corrections in DC4 moving forward and helping these folks in a real meaningful way.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Two things that I'll add on that, sort of just as far as like who is placed on community corrections. That's a sentencing decision that is housed with the judges, and so they look at all of those factors.
Right.
And one of the things that I'll have a question for all the folks and want to point out for the committee, we've got a number of nominees for this board because it has been dormant for far too long. And so I'm glad to see that the mayor is making some new appointments. But on that thread, considering that it has been dormant for so long, will you be able to commit to the time to meeting meeting the attendance requirements and fully participating in this board?
Yes. I guess my reading of the rules and regulations was that it was at least quarterly, and it could be more. Am I wrong about that?
That's correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much. Next to the same board, we have Donna Greer. Ms. Greer, if you'll come forward, please.
Thank you.
Can you get by?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
And Ms. Greer, would you like a parking validation or a bus pass?
If I don't fall tripping over myself. Parking.
Okay. Here you go, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes, I'm a resident.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to today?
No.
So tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
When I have served on the board before, I have quite a bit of experience definitely in criminal justice, criminal behaviors, addictions, mental health services. So I guess I've been really working in the field about maybe 30 years without telling my age. So I ran programs, I have started up programs. I work really closely with women who have had prostitution and drug addictions. I have definitely found and helped find places. One of my jobs is find resources for people to make sure they're connected in the community and be successful. And I have had really good success in the last position I held in that line. I have women that are still very productive in the community, have been able to have family ties again, good jobs, housing. So I think that we can continue to do that in the community if we have good, stable, quality staff. to help promote that.
And will you be able to meet the time requirements?
Yes, sir.
Any questions from the committee?
Thank
Pro
you for
tem.
everything you did.
Mm-hmm.
You have a fabulous resume. My daughter used to work at Clark Center as one of the nurses.
Right. He's with
Pro Tem?
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Greer, Dr. Greer?
No, I'm not a doctor. No.
Ms. Greer, you currently serve on the board, or you serve?
I have served on the board.
Okay. From
Before
your,
it became dominant, and then it went to the COVID, and then we just been kind of,
got it. From your past experience on the board, what was the biggest challenge?
the biggest challenge is retaining staff. And I believe the staff did a fabulous job in working with the clientele they had, but retaining staff. And what I said was probably the pay itself. Most staff that my understanding is working on the board before had to have 2 jobs just to maintain their living, period. So I don't think that would be one of the biggest things, is trying to retain. Because once you keep changing over staff, you also risk the fact that the clientele is not getting what they need.
The staff from the board or the staff from?
the community, from the corrections.
Okay. Okay. Were there any issues with the board itself?
No, I think the board worked fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Next, we have the nomination of Marcus Shute Jr.
Gene, you're he's sitting out there dutifully.
Hey, young man, would you like a bus pass or a parking validation?
Neither, please. I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
I am.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to today?
Not for the city. I'm on the board, but.
Perfect. So tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
Like Josh, I was contacted about a month and a half ago by the mayor's office about bringing this board back. My background is I am a native Nashvilleian. In 2020, I ran for judge, for the 6th Circuit Criminal Court judge. That opportunity gave me the pleasure of going around the entire county to meeting all the constituents and everybody there, and then talking to them about what their expectation is for criminal justice. My practice, I'm a lawyer by trade. I've had my own practice since 2015. My practice started by representing those indigent defendants in Davidson County, cases that may be simple possession up to DUIs and murders. So I've been very intimately involved with criminal justice here in Davidson County. Worked with some juvenile clients that have gone from transfers from juvenile justice center to criminal court, and recognizing some of the challenges that they may face, being a first-time offender, but being a young first-time offender, and then trying to re-enter our society here in Davidson County. I'm also a board member of Dismas House, that is similar to Philippians 4:13, in that it provides some type of alternative sentencing for those that have been sentenced into court. I'm also a member of Tennessee Association Criminal Defense Lawyers. I'm a board member for the middle section, which in its name we are a collective collection of attorneys that practice criminal defense in the state of Tennessee, looking out for attorneys and the clients that they represent. So with that background, for me, it was a no-brainer when I was asked if I'd be interested in joining this board, because I'm intimately involved in our city's growth and ensuring that those that have maybe made some incorrect choices in their life have an opportunity to rehabilitate themselves and live a fruitful life and be a productive member of society.
And I'll just add, during my time as a criminal defense attorney, I worked with Marcus. I've seen him operate in a courtroom, an amazing advocate, the definition of a zealous advocate for clients, and specifically sees the need for having folks who are engaged in this work for being on this board, so I'm incredibly excited to see that the mayor has nominated you for this position. Anything from the committee?
We won't hold you being friends with.
No.
Yeah, Vice Chair Cash.
Just a quick question. I see you were a teacher for a couple of years. Where'd you teach?
I taught at East Literature Magnet High School. I taught Spanish and government.
Anything further? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Any not voting? 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the kind words.
Of course. Next we have Jarrell Summers. Summers, thank you for being here. Would you like a bus pass or a parking validation? And are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes.
Okay. And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to today? Tell us a little bit about why you want to serve on this board.
Well, I want to serve, like I said, this opportunity was brought to me probably about a month ago. Social worker by trade. I've been in the field of social work for over 20 years. Worked with juveniles as well as adults. I know they mentioned Dismas House. I was case manager, did programming there, so firsthand I was able to see young men in and out of, coming out of the system. Also, right now I'm currently serving program manager over at Metro Health Department as the program manager over the community violence and safety program there. Once before I was at Urban League serving in the same capacity. So I've seen firsthand of what goes on with the justice system. Had a family member that was impacted, that was on drugs and had mental health issues, and that he was not able to have any community corrections. He went straight to prison. But I feel like having that, if you have community corrections, it keeps families together. If there's some rehabilitation that's needed, that will help out. But like I said, firsthand I've seen it take place, and so I'm willing to give my expertise and anything I can do to help the board stay afloat.
And will you be able to meet the time commitment?
Yes.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Next we have Joe Umberger. Mr. Umberger, would you like a parking pass or a bus pass or a parking validation?
Parking validation, okay. Thank you.
Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
I am.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to today?
I do not.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
So I work for 413 Strong, and in that capacity, I'm a case manager, and so I've worked hand in hand with community corrections ever since I started working there in 2019. I'm going on 6 years there. In my experience with them, as opposed to my experience with state probation and even federal pretrial services, that community corrections are quick to be supportive and helpful to someone who's really trying to make a change, which is kind of a direct contrast to my experience with state probation. It's kind of do this, don't do that. They seem to care, and they seem to be willing to do a little extra to try to help somebody reintegrate. And my thing is I don't have any interest in somebody getting out of the consequences of their behavior. I do have an interest in them becoming a productive member of society, and ways to support that transition. And incarceration doesn't work because the majority of these kids that I work with have substance abuse issues or mental health issues. It's always the same story, and they're not getting the support they need or any encouragement or anybody to go, I believe in you, do this next thing, and cheer them on a little bit. And I think that's important. So.
And thank you for the work that you do at 413 Strong. It's an amazing program. Also, saying that 2019 was built on 6 years is time's a myth. But yes, thank you for your work, and thank you for your willingness to serve on this board. Any question? Will you be able to make the time commitment?
Yes.
Any questions from the committee?
How do you see the experience that you have and your day-to-day involvement with what you do now, how do you see that facilitating success within this board that's being redeveloped?
To be honest with you, I don't know that much about the function of this board, but I was asked by the Director of Community Corrections to get involved in it. And what I do know is that I hear them, the officers that I work with in Community Corrections, talk about the need for support. I think that it's valuable to have the voice of someone, or the voices of people who work directly with this population and the things that they struggle with. I think anything we can do to reduce recidivism and also save the county and the state tax dollars in incarceration. I think that's an important thing. And it's money well spent, in my opinion.
So I'll just say thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Anything further? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next we have Heather Mischel. Ms. Mischel, would you like a bus pass or a parking validation?
Parking validation would be great. It's expensive downtown.
Yes. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes.
And do you currently serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to today?
Yes.
Okay, tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
Thank you. I'm interested in serving on this board, mainly from my background in public safety and community advocacy. Last 10 years I've worked for anti-violence organizations on systems advocacy and community response. A lot of that work has been with law enforcement and community stakeholders to kind of come to the table, evaluate systems that are in place, and suggest improvements. And so I deeply care about these issues. I'm also, like many of the people that have been up here, have worked in the legal system as a criminal defense attorney at Choosing Justice Initiative for a year, and got to work with law enforcement in that role, as well as a defense attorney reviewing body cam footage. And I can tell you how valuable that transparency is for clients that I was working with in that space. So ultimately, just systems advocacy is really something that I'm passionate about, and hope that my background can lend some expertise and help this work.
And will you be able to meet the time requirement?
Yes.
And I'll say I've worked with Heather professionally as well. Again, another great individual who I think will do amazing on this board. Any questions from the committee?
Just comment.
Right.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Knowing Heather for a couple of years now, I also wanted to speak to her qualifications. I think she will bring an important voice to this board. You know, she is definitely an advocate for the community as a whole, and I think that her expertise will definitely be very, very well used and needed. So I wholeheartedly give my support. Thank you.
Anything further? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we also have Walter Searcy. Mr. Searcy, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
Of course. Would you need a parking validation or a bus pass?
Actually, my service on the WeGo board garnered me a lifetime bus pass.
Perfect. Yes, here, here. We love that. Yes. Perfect. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
I am.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to today?
I do not.
So tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
Oh, let's see if I can crowd this into about 3 hours. In 2014, I was involved in developing an organization called NOAH, Nashville Organized for Action. And I served as the first task force chairperson of our criminal justice task force. And in that task force, we developed subcommittees that dealt with education, K through 12, not higher education. Mental health interventions for those who were facing issues in the criminal justice system, trying to develop alternatives to incarceration for people who simply needed some impactful counseling. Also we worked on, we had a subcommittee that worked on bond issues and attempting to essentially eliminate cash bonds in Davidson County and ultimately with some statewide connections, really trying to deal with it in the legislature as well. So that experience was very impactful to me. I had been a trial lawyer, but my beat was civil litigation. And so I did not have a lot of criminal law experience, but clearly we recognized that criminal law practice required the criminal law practitioner, as you would know, to be very diverse in his or her approach to representing the client base that they serve. Now, I also now chair a different task force in NOAA, one that primarily focuses on economic equity, jobs, and transportation. But in that, I had some interactions with the leadership of the Citizens Review Board, formerly the Citizens Observation Board, and interacting with those individuals encouraged me to accept the mayor's nomination for this task force. I think that I have a reasonable approach to what the review process can entail. I'm aware of the controversies that exist between what the local commission wants to do and what the state legislature has intervened in. And that's still an open question as to how ultimately that may be resolved. And I think I can certainly help in that regard as well. So that somebody doesn't report back to my wife that I took too damn long to make this presentation, I will stop at this point.
Perfect. And will you be able to meet the time requirement?
Yes.
Any questions from the committee?
I have a question.
Yes.
On the, I'm a little behind on my watching. I know y'all are still working on the MOU.
Yes.
What's the latest on that?
That's the,
We're this close.
now that's the mayor's statement.
Okay.
The mayor told me,
This close?
yeah, they were that close. But that's confirmed. The leadership of both the chair and the executive director have confirmed that there are a couple of apparently not so very relevant issues that still remain outstanding, but they seem to be satisfied with how the MOU is progressing.
I just want to say, Mr. Searcy's done so many things for the city, and I think he'll be a great addition to this.
Anything further? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move to the Health Authority Board reappointment of Frank Stevenson.
He's coming.
No, it's not.
Mr. Stevenson, thank you for being here. Would you like a bus pass or a parking pass?
Park violation would be great.
Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
I am.
And do you currently serve on any other boards and commissions other than what you're being appointed to today?
Good, it's been a while.
So tell us a little bit about why you want to serve on the hospital.
That's where we're at.
Okay, tell us why you want to continue serving on the hospital.
Well, I'm really seriously committed to moving the needle on health disparities and healthcare outcomes. I think having a strong safety net hospital in the city is important, and I think it is one of the most important things we can do and do right. And I think the governance and the judicial oversight of that is severely important to the support of taxpayers with the community safety net hospital. So that's why I'm interested in continuing to serve on that board.
And what are some of the biggest challenges that you all have been facing?
Well, the biggest challenge was when Mayor Berry suggested that we become an ambulatory hospital, and it took us years to recoup from that. People lost faith and trust in the stability of that. There are some challenges around facility that we obviously have to look at, but there are also some great things that have happened over the last few years. One being the financial support that this council in the last few years has really stepped up to make sure that they were supporting in a great way. I don't think there's no barriers that we can overcome, but there's been some historical challenges that we have to continue to dig into.
Okay, perfect. And then I'm looking at your questionnaire here, and part of it is an ethics acknowledgement. Although you are currently serving on the board, have you reviewed and submitted that
Yes.
acknowledgement? Okay. Okay. Questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your willingness to continue serving. We'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we move to the Property Standards and Appeals Board appointment of Naima, my apologies, Naima Fierce, for a term expiring on October 17th, 2028. Ms. Fierce, are you, would you like a bus pass or a parking validation?
Oh, parking, please. Thank you.
Do you currently, are you currently a Davidson County resident?
I am.
Okay, and do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to today?
I do.
Any Metro?
Metro, no.
Okay, perfect. So tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
So honestly, I never thought about serving. You know, the mayor's office reached out. I happen to be a small business owner in North Nashville. I also live in North Nashville, and I'm a lawyer. So being in a part of Davidson County that's rapidly growing and has some challenges, right? Regarding parking and sidewalks and blighted properties and, you know, folks that are under demolition orders but may want to have the opportunity to repair their places. I actually thought it would be a really interesting use of my skills, you know, as a sort of wonky-oriented lawyer, and also being someone who's in the neighborhood, and, you know, literally in the neighborhood every day with, you know, 35 employees and hundreds of customers a day, so I talk to a lot of people in North Nashville about issues there. So it, honestly, it never occurred to me, and then when it came up, I thought this actually would work well.
And will you be able to meet the time requirement for this board?
Yes.
Any questions from the committee?
No, well, I'm sort of curious. I saw that there were a significant number of meetings last year where that were canceled. Was that due to the inability to have a quorum? And what happens when a meeting's canceled? Does the agenda, where does it roll to if there's subsequent cancellations?
That is a grand question. Pro Tem Suara, do you, or Ms. Sepulveda, do you? I saw her face too.
We can table it.
Yeah. Do you want to try and touch on that, or?
Yeah, it just rolls to the second meeting. So usually, sometimes, if there's not enough people, they'll call around and hopefully before anyone actually drives to the
Sure.
location.
Mhm.
And usually that's the case. Sometimes you get there, people don't show up, and then you have to go home.
Okay.
Right, but usually people call around. This is why the new rule is currently being discussed, so you don't have to worry about that so much going forward.
Okay, perfect.
Anything from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next we move to the Property Standards Appeal Board appointment of Katie Martin for a term expiring on October 4th, 2028. Ms. Martin, would you like a bus pass or a parking validation?
Parking validation, please. Thank you very much.
Do you currently live in Davidson County?
I do.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to today?
I do not.
So tell us a little bit about why you want to serve on this board.
So I've had a passion for nonprofit residential construction for the last 3 years. I work with 3 different nonprofits, both in Central Appalachia as well as 2 here in Davidson County. I have seen and been hands-on with the transformation of people's lives through cutting down overgrowth, repairing, decaying exterior and interior houses. And I think that this would be an amazing opportunity to be a little bit more involved in that. I currently work with Habitat for Humanity. We're in the tail end of building a 58-home development in North Nashville, and the surrounding areas are just, it's very different than the community we're building, just in terms of shrubbery and excess trash around other properties. And I think that being able to serve on this committee and sort of find a way to bridge those gaps and provide resources to those people that maybe get the notice but don't know where to go or can't do it themselves, that would be where I would like to step in. Specifically with my work with Westminster Home Connection. I worked with a lot of the elderly and disabled population here in Greater Nashville, and seeing the pride on their faces and in their body language when we would leave after cutting down overgrowth or clearing out their gutters, just making their home look presentable, the pride in their faces is what keeps me coming back and is what makes me want to do this on a higher level. I love Nashville. I've had a great experience here, and I would love to be a part of the broader solution to keeping Nashville proud.
Perfect. And will you be able to meet the time commitment of this board?
Yes.
Anything from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? So we've got 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Okay. Next is the Traffic and Parking Commission appointment of Daniel Ryan Jr. for a term expiring on April 3rd, 2028. With regard to that, we do have a letter from the mayor. It reads, Dear members of the council and Mr. Kyle, who is the Metro Clerk. Pursuant to the Metropolitan Charter, Section 11.901 of the Metropolitan Government of Davidson County, I hereby withdraw Mr. Daniel Ryan Jr. from the Traffic and Parking Commission. Daniel Ryan of Nashville, Tennessee, 37221, respectfully submitted the Honorable Mayor Freddie O'Connell. So that is withdrawn. Next are board and commission confirmations. Candidates in this category will be subject to the recommendation vote of the Rules, Confirmation, and Public Elections Committee and confirmed by the Metro Council. And first we have the Nashville Music, Film, and Entertainment Commission appointment of Erica Nichols for a term expiring on October 17th, 2028. And we had interviewed Ms. Nichols on October 15th, 2024. Any discussion on this individual? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? That's 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Next is the Stormwater Management Commission appointment of Nathan Oliver for a term expiring on October 31st, 2028. Again, this individual was interviewed on October 15th, 2024. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. We come down to the adjournment. Do we have a motion? Moved and properly seconded. Without objection, we do now stand adjourned.
It could have been worse.